Yep. All right. Thank you all for coming tonight. Evening, Chris. I'd like to call the Champaign County Board Environment Land Use Committee to order. It is 6:36. We have two members so far not here, but hopefully they'll come. Would the clerk call the roll, please?
Esri,
Here.
Farney, Patterson, Rodriguez,
Here.
Storr,
Here.
Rogers,
Present.
and Thorland.
Here. All right, we have an agenda in front of us. I'd entertain a motion to approve that agenda. Moved by Rogers, a second? Second by Esri. I don't foresee any changes in it, so all those in favor? Aye. And those opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. We have the meetings of October 5th, 2023's regular meeting. First, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Aaron, second by Rogers. All right, you guys are going to tag team tonight. Are there any changes or corrections that anyone sees in the minutes as published? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? All right, I have one note for public participation, and forgive me if I read this wrong. Elizabeth Reddington. All right, that's an R. All right, Elizabeth, the microphone is here. If you push the little face on it, you'll get a little red ring. And the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm here to present on behalf of two projects on the agenda, Champaign Solar 1 LLC and Champaign Solar 1B LLC, both of which are being developed as community solar gardens. And community solar gardens are part of a program that has been approved by the state of Illinois to achieve their renewable portfolio standard of 50% renewable energy by 2035. And so these are ground-mounted systems intended to allow for utility customers to subscribe to the capacity that is generated from these in order to save on their electricity bills. The economic benefit that these projects bring to the community are, again, the electricity savings to residences and businesses that would be subscribers. Also, the property tax revenue, there would be a significant tax revenue increase based off of the way the state of Illinois assesses community solar gardens. And that property tax revenue increase comes without large public spending because we don't require utility expansion to these gardens. Also, these projects will encourage workforce training and development programs. And we also are preserving farmland and are a harmonious neighbor based off of the non-emissions and no pollution that comes from the technology that we'd be installing. We're also bolstering the existing distribution grid, and again, this by nature is renewable energy to help the environment. The first system is a 5 megawatt AC, 6.25 megawatt DC system. The estimated production would be 10.59 gigawatts a year, which is the equivalent of about 1,400 homes. The second site is of equal size, of equal generation, and of equal offset of the residential homes. We'd be installing Tier 1 panel manufacturers, string inverters, so they're throughout the array, so no noise can be heard from outside of the fence. And we'd also be installing single access tracker racking that tilts from east to west throughout the day and follows the sun. There will be driven pile foundations for the racking, but it does not require concrete footing. And the motors of the racking cannot be heard from outside of the fence either. We'd also be installing and seeding native vegetation and pollinator species throughout the array, so within our fenced-in area. This aids in creating a local pollinator habitat and also lowers the amount of mowing because of the nature of the low growth seed mix that we would be planting. It supports the habitat of bees and butterflies needed for agriculture, and it also helps the site become resilient to downpours and helps with our stormwater management plans. At the end of the system's life, we will be decommissioning the system according to 3 things. So our solar lease that we have with the landowner includes decommissioning. Also, we have executed Department of Agricultural's AMA, the Agricultural Impact Mitigation Act. So we will be adhering to that ruling as well. And also the decommissioning plan as a part of the county's zoning ordinance, which we've submitted in our application process. It includes the removal of modules, racking, our piles, the cabling, any system trays that are included with our wiring, and the concrete foundations for our equipment pad. And then also it includes the reseeding of the site. So after everything is pulled out of the ground, we would reestablish coverage to ensure that there was enough erosion control. And we approximate that the timeline to decommission will be about 2 months long based off of these system sizes. We'll also be recycling any equipment that has salvage value, such as steel, copper, and aluminum, and also our solar panels. And based off of our lease that we have with the landowner, we'll also return the site to its original condition, and we may leave the road depending on whether or not the landowner wants to keep the gravel road. And that concludes the presentation.
All right, thank you. I'm going to ask you to stick around in case we have questions later. You can stay there if you want. I'm going to try to get all the way through the meeting actually speaking. If not, I'll dump it on Aaron's head and make him do it. So it's not COVID. I just tested it a half hour ago, so we're all good. All right, thank you very much. There's no other public participation, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. Communications. Do any board members have communications for the board tonight? I always look to you, Mr. Stewart. But you don't have to make something up if you don't have it. So. All right, we'll close communications. We have new business. This is for information only. This is an email from Terry McLaren. I know that Aaron answered him. I looked a little bit into it, and they're correct. There really isn't any good solution for county recycling. We hope that that is going to get better in the future, but at the moment, Aaron?
I mean, if it did, that's fine. But I don't know, was my email, did it get sent to Mr. McLaren, or was it just to the committee members and Mr.
It might have
Hall?
just been to the committee members.
I mean,
I was thinking it was just to the committee.
that's what I was thinking
didn't-
too. I mean, I don't know, I wouldn't have a problem if wanted to forward it, but if you didn't by chance see it, as far as I know, probably at least one of the biggest reasons was because the drop-off sites that I was familiar with, I mean, I saw it, I think, in St. Joe and maybe some in Sydney. People started abusing them, unfortunately, and just literally dumping off trash. And like I can think of the one time I saw multiple, I don't know, 5 or 6 probably old 8-foot fluorescent fixtures that were shoved in the recycling bin that was meant for cardboard. Well, a company's not going to put up with that for very long if they have to go through the extra work of pulling out the pure trash from what's supposed to be just cardboard. So I think that's my thought. I can't say that I got that directly from any of the recyclers, but that would be one of my things as to why a lot of those
The only thing I wasn't able
Recycling
to
got shut
do,
down.
because I wasn't in the country at the time, was to go see on Paula Drive if Illini Recycling still had drop-off bins, which is what we used to use when I lived in the country. And it worked well. They had cameras and stuff, so, but they still had a problem. All right, moving on. New business to be approved by ELOC, the recreation and entertainment license for Taylor Feldkamp for a demo derby at the Champaign County Fairgrounds, 1302 North Kohler Avenue, Urbana, on 4/18 through 4/20 of '24. And I think everything is in the package. John, the sheriff, has signed off on that. And I know Aaron wants to have a long discussion about it, but
Yeah, I was joking before the meeting started that we'll try and drag this out for an hour. Just kidding. But one real quick question, John, has there ever been a complaint about this? I mean, just that you are aware of?
No.
I was just curious.
The only complaints we've had about an event like this was before this person bought this event, the previous, what do you call it? Promoter had a really bad event, so bad that he was discouraged from
I
coming
think
back.
I might kind of remember hearing about that.
And then Mr. Feldkamp bought it, and he's been very good about the way it's been run.
And I would move to approve this
okay.
item.
We have a motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Storr is the second. Any other discussion on this? Sir?
Sure. On page 12, there's a big redacted stamp, and no signature by the president of the corporation or something along that line. Could you, what was the reason for the redaction?
Well, the application asked for date of birth and place of birth and social security number.
Oh,
And
no, we don't need that.
Don't need that. The watermark just goes on the whole application, but then I've indicated under date of birth and social security number that those were redacted.
Very
And-
good. No.
And
No
this is not
further-
a corporation, so that corporate area didn't need to be completed.
Very good.
All right, any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, the demo derby goes on. I'm going to read through this as best I can. I'm going to group both of these cases together with the reclamation agreements because it's all basically one site, and we have Elizabeth here for questions. New business to be recommended to the county board, zoning case 099-S23. This is a request by Champaign Solar One LLC, a subsidiary of Pivot Energy Development LLC, with CEO Tom Hunt, via agent Merrill Reed, and participating landowner JHBLT LLC to authorize a community PV solar farm with a total nameplate capacity of 5 megawatts, including access roads and wiring in the Ag 1 agricultural zoning district on the south 35.2 acres of a 90-acre tract of land west of the Canadian National Railroad in the southeast quarter of Section 34, Township 17 North, Range 8 East of the 3rd Principal Meridian in Pasodum Township, and commonly known as farmland owned by JHBLT LLC on the north side of County Road 0N, and including the following waivers of standard conditions. For number 1, Part A waiver for separation distance of 1.07 miles from a municipality with a zoning ordinance in lieu of the minimum required 1.5 miles per section 615B2A. Part B, a waiver for separation distance of 42 feet between the solar inverters and the perimeter fence in lieu of the minimum required 275 feet per section 615D6. Part C, a waiver for not entering into a roadway upgrade maintenance agreement or waiver therefrom with the relevant local highway authority prior to consideration of the special use permit by the board per section 15G of the zoning ordinance. Other waivers may be necessary. B, Part B is the decommissioning site reclamation for case 099S23. And it's a request by the same group. I won't read the whole thing again. This is again for the south 35.2 acre of the 90-acre tract, also known as the part one of this. The address is all the same. We'll make sure that all gets entered into the record. And moving on to C, this is case 100S23. This is request by Champaign Solar 1B LLC, a subsidiary of Pivot Energy, working with the same CEO, via agent on Merrill Reed, and participating with the same landowner, JHBLT LLC, to authorize a community PV solar farm with a total nameplate capacity of 5 megawatts. And this one is on 26.7 acres of the north half of the 90-acre tract of land west of the Canadian Railroad, basically the same address as case 99. The waivers for this one, on A, it's a separation distance, again, of 1.07 miles from the municipality. Part B is a waiver for separation distance of 10 feet between the solar inverters and the perimeter fence in lieu of the 275. And Part C, again, the roadway upgrade maintenance agreement waiver with the local highway authority. D, decommissioning and site reclamation plan for 100S23 is very similar to the one for 99. All the same principles, the same address, and again, this is on the north 26.7 acres. And I will say, just briefly, that the package is very well put together. And we always appreciate when a petitioner comes to us with a well-done application. So, questions from the board, I'll defer to John, if there is anything you want to add, or if there's any questions.
I just would point out that this petitioner did a especially good job on the tile mapping. We identified mutual tiles as well as some drainage district tile, and the plan was revised to stay away from those tiles. An easement will be created for the drainage district tile, and that all has to be documented as part of the permitting. So again, like you said, it's been a really good application.
All right, yeah, thank you, John. Any questions for John first? Any questions? Oh, Chris?
Sure. I noticed that there was a couple of requests in here for waivers of the minimum separation districts from the perimeter fence. And in one case, I mean, these are they're not small waivers. They're pretty big. Is this going to cause some sort of a difficulty with an adjoining property, or?
The closest house is almost 1,000 feet away, but less than 1,000 feet, and they waived the requirement for screening. So I really don't see that being a problem at all, given that there's no nearby residence. That residence, which is almost but not quite 1,000 feet away, is in fact one of the property owners.
Okay.
So I don't envision any problems.
And they also asked for a separate waiver for the distance from the municipality. Again, has the municipality said anything?
The municipality waived the ordinance requirement for a second ELUC meeting, and they haven't provided any comments. So I take that all to be a good sign. So.
Splendid. And I noticed that there's a waiver for not entering into the roadway upgrade and maintenance agreement. Is this because there's just not going to be that much of a heavy load, or?
I think Ms. Reddington could answer that question if the board is willing to.
Yes, regarding the road use agreement, we have reached out to the county, and we have spoken with their commissioner, and they are actually in the process of redoing their road use agreement. So at the time, they don't have a template for us to actually execute. So that has become a condition of our permit as well. We will have a road use agreement prior to us submitting for building permit.
Thank you for coming and answering. Dang, I just ran out of questions.
And Liz, that is actually a highway commissioner in Douglas County, right, rather than Champaign County?
Yes, because this is where Champaign meets Douglas County, and he has reviewed our plans, and as part of our application submission, he didn't have any feedback about where our access road would be or anything like that. It's just, once, they didn't have a document for us to put pen to paper yet.
All right, any other questions? Aaron?
I came up with a question for you, Ms. Reddington. Just in your presentation, you mentioned 5 megawatts AC and 6 something, I believe, DC. Just kind of out of curiosity, because hadn't heard that before, does that require 2 different types of panels or wired differently, or how is that done? Because that's the first I've heard of the AC and the DC being produced. I mean, I know power can be transmitted both ways depending on obviously the type of line and the voltages and stuff, but I just hadn't heard, I don't think any before that have came before us of the 2 different DC and AC both being produced. So if you could explain that maybe just a little.
Sure, yeah. So we design our systems knowing that there's going to be losses from the time the sun hits the panels and comes through all of our wiring and cabling. So the 5 megawatt AC is that alternating current, and that's what actually hits the grid. So our interconnection agreement that we have or will have will be based off of generating 5 megawatts of power. That's so it's all the same equipment. It's just whatever hits the grid.
That explains it. And yeah, thinking about it more and having kind of a duh moment, thus the inverters that we've had on the other projects. It just wasn't hitting me that, yeah, the panels produce the DC. I think it was in part just the way you expressed it that made me kind of, well, that's different. But now it's dawning on me, and like I say, it's kind of a duh moment. Thus, like I say, the inverters that we've had previous discussions on the noise that they make and stuff on other projects. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, actually, it's appreciated that you list both the numbers, because I think people sometimes forget that, you know, there's a process here to turn that sun from DC to AC and put it in the grid. So, but you're the first that's actually mentioned both numbers, so, and it's appreciated. Any other questions for Elizabeth while she's here? She's going to stick around for the vote, I'm pretty sure, but.
You betcha.
All right, any more questions for John? Yeah, I'd entertain a motion then to approve A, B, C, and D together. Okay, we have a move from Kyle, a second from Emily. Any further discussion? Aaron?
I don't see this being super contentious at all at the board meeting, but I'm just going to go ahead and ask that it stay off the consent. Just, it's one of those, some of these have been somewhat contentious in the past, and I'm going to vote for it tonight. And I, at this point in time, don't see why I won't vote for it at the board meeting, but I'm just going to go ahead and ask now. Not that I couldn't at the board meeting or whatever, but just that it just be kept off the consent.
Yeah, and that was going to be my plan as well. So and just to explain to you, a consent agenda, if we were unanimous, it goes into sort of a package that's all the things that were voted unanimously together. And often there's no discussion about that. But when we have a thing like this, solar farm, wind farm, or some issue that we know people want to talk about, we just take it off. It doesn't mean that it doesn't reflect poorly on the case at all. It just means that that way it's open for discussion without someone pulling it off at the meeting then. So, all right, so good call, Aaron. Thank you very much. So with that, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? And there you go. Thank you very much again for it being well thought out.
Thank you.
Have a good evening and a safe trip back. All right. In other business, we have the October 2023 monthly report, which means that we're like totally up to date on monthly reports. So anything of note, sir?
No, I would, things do seem to be kind of slowing down in terms of permitting and even cases, but you'll see that here on the cases, it's almost the same as last year. So things haven't really slowed down that much, but I'm expecting by October we might see more of a slowdown.
Okay. All right. I have no chair's report. I could sit here and cough into the microphone for a little bit. I'm just trying to make the meeting last 30 minutes so the per diem is worthwhile for all of us. Otherwise, we have no items to put on consent agenda because, as Aaron said, we're going to leave that off for discussion of the board. And at 7